Ladies and gentlemen, we are glad that you found the time to visit and come and listen to our episode 3 of African Real Estate Podcast, where it's all about exploring the dynamics in the real estate industry. Today, we are glad that you have joined us. Here, you'll definitely live with more knowledge. You'll make more informed decisions when it comes to real estate. And we look forward to having an engaging conversation. I'll be your host, Dominic Mwangi, alongside
Victor Kiplagat. Welcome, guys.
All right, Victor, will you mind telling us what we talked about in our episode 2?
Episode 2, we looked at some of the ways that the diaspora community can invest in Kenya, areas of investment that they can consider, including a leasing of space, a leasing of property or property management, areas to do with mall, rentals, commercial buildings and apartments, and so much more.
All right, and today let us take it from this point. There are so many Kenyans who have been falling victims of people who are conmen, of companies who pretend or who are supposed to be selling land, which is not the case. When Kenyans hear names like East African Portland Cement, Gakuyo Real Estate, Lesedi Developers, it's itching to the Kenyan developers because majority have lost money to these companies, to these investments. 8 out of 10 Kenyans fall victims of frauds and scams when it comes to property. That is a research that was conducted by one real estate lawyer called Ruth Tanui. So today our topic will be how to avoid falling victim of real estate scams, because there are so many. The major point, which is research. When you want to invest in a property, you should always do thorough research. In our episode 2 and episode 1, we talked about how due diligence is important. When you do research, you definitely avoid losses. Doing research may be very simple by conducting search. For example, when you want to buy a piece of land, that piece of land has a title. It is called a mother title. You can take the title, go to the Ministry of Lands. Actually, it's called a search. Who owns the property? Has it been sold earlier? And such. You can also do this via Arthisasa platform. Out of the research, you should be able to establish whether the piece of land or property is contested or has a legal battle in the courts of law. You should establish the real estate dealer is registered. If it's a company, does the company have a physical office? Do they have a legal framework to sort out issues? You should also consider the history. People who have dealt with the company earlier, maybe investors who bought land. If you find some client who bought land with the company complaining that I never received my title, they lied to me, you should not invest in such a property. Do your thorough research before proceeding to make any agreement with a company when it comes to property, Victor.
Exactly. That has been a very exhaustive point. When an individual is looking into investing or buying property, so that the individual avoids getting scammed, do cashless transactions. Is it pay by check or deposit the amount via bank transactions involving witnesses? Dominic, you'll bear me witness that when you do cash transactions, the cash itself is likely not to be traceable. But when you have bank records, bank statements, lawyers, real estate officials who have overseen the transaction, that is going to be very important moving forward as far as doing the purchase for real estate property investment is concerned.
Definitely, you should always use you can prove the means of transaction. Maybe a bank account, because you can show this is the receipt, I did this time. But now when it comes to paying cash, here you cannot prove.
Exactly.
Before completing a transaction process, make sure you understand the whole terms and conditions of the property. There are so many documents and agreements that are involved, and the signing of the documents should help one. Should there be a legal contest? That is how you will prove that I acquired this property the right way. If you did read the terms and conditions, at times you'll find that the property companies have some clauses in the agreements are not fair to the buyer, but you'll find the buyer never read the terms and conditions. They just appended their signatures. So a proprietor in real estate should always take time, read and understand all the statement by the agreement before giving any go ahead. They should always seek clarification to ensure that they don't ignore any loophole. By seeking clarification, this could be by seeking professional assistance from qualified lawyers, real estate agents who can explain some terms and some clauses of the agreements. And this may save the property buyer or the proprietor from losing the property later.
Exactly. One should not hand out personal information like bank codes or bank pins. When you handle out personal information, it can be used against you to be able to swindle the property. Only exchange information at the behest of the lawyer and also the real estate officers, who will make sure that the information cannot be used as a compromising factor to be able to swindle you the ownership of the property. And also one should be able to go for inspection. I want to sell you my house. You should be able to come and check the condition of the house. Does it need any renovation? Is it fine in terms of security, in terms of social amenities, the schools, the hospitals, the access roads? Are they easy to maneuver? Because if you don't do inspection, you might be surprised by what you find out on the ground.
Actually, there is a conversation that is majorly online, what you order versus what you get. So if you don't verify the property you want to acquire, you may end up buying the wrong property. And we can link that to a point that we always commit to visiting the property before you acquire it, whether it is land, an apartment, or whatever. Before you commit to the transaction, before you complete the transaction, always make sure you visit the property, you verify its physical existence. And in Kenya, property may exist on papers and it is absent physically. Look, our systems are so corrupt. And I admire land selling companies that always have site visits to the property, and this build trust of their clients. I believe it's a point everybody should first consider visiting the property before they acquire it.
Exactly. And before making any payment, ask every kind of question that you may have. Like, don't assume that because I've seen the documents, the location, the realtor, building is final, I've been given the keys. Make sure you have all the questions that need to be asked. Kuuliza swali si ujinga.
In addition to your point, you should never depend on your own. Maybe you have earlier done a transaction and it was successful. Always make sure you do not depend entirely on your own. Before signing any property agreement, always seek professional assistance from experts. Involving experts may be somewhat expensive since their services are traded, they are charged. However, it will save you from fraudsters. You can make an agreement with somebody, then you do not seek any legal assistance. Maybe the property was valued higher than the real value of the property. Seeking your valuer to tell you how much is this property worth, how much should I pay for this property. This can help. It can save you on being extorted. Involving a lawyer can save you from a legal contest later after acquiring the property. Experts may see defects in property agreements that I, as an investor, may not be able to see because I lack the experience, dealership of the real estate industry. Not all the experts, however, are honest. Always make sure you have a genuine expert.
Exactly. It's very important people to avoid all these kind of emails that people are sent that we are selling or renting this property at a flash discount. Come one, come all. We're doing it at a throwaway price. Those are just emails that want to lure unsuspecting clients. Every information, every email that prospective buyer gets, you should be able to verify, because you might end up just judging everything at face value and saying this is the picture of the property.
True. Let us avoid being convinced just from the advertisements that we come across. Maybe it's a television advert, it's an influencer advert. An example of a company, there is already a legal contest. A company called Lesedi Developers. They were doing a lot of adverts on local televisions. They were using influencers. But in the end, people came to learn that they really never delivered as they promised. So majority of people were conned. So we should always avoid being convinced from just mere adverts. Go to the ground, find out from clients who have acquired property with this company or this dealer or this real estate agent. Find out, are they content with what they got? Or are they satisfied? Recommendations. This can help you make informed decisions that can help you not be conned.
Exactly. One should be able to see investment or purchase of a house as a community. Join a housing circle, community policing, and the community at large knows each other. If it's saving up for the property, you can save as a group or as a merry-go-round, so that as you purchase this house, these are the measures that we've taken in case the house in question is not on the ground, does not make sense. But when you purchase it as a community, it is a security rather than purchasing individually, because when you purchase individually and you've been conned, there are court cases, money to be paid to lawyers. But as a cooperative, has a stronger voice rather than individual.
So we can also say that you should always be on the lookout. Never ignore any red flag. For example, you may find a real estate dealer giving you pressure. There is bad history in a property. That is also a red flag. Unrealistic offers. I should not tell you property is ranging for 80,000 Kenya shillings, when the valuers around the same area are valuing the same property, the same size, at around 250,000. That price is not even realistic. You should be on the lookout. And as I conclude, Victor, after you acquire a piece of land, always put it in use. Whether it is cultivation, erecting a fence. Today in Kenya, when a property is found idle, there is a time that we were traveling and we came across a piece of property, and somebody was telling me, how have people in Nairobi not seen this piece? When you always acquire a property, always make sure that you put it in use. You can also be sold such a property, so you should always be on the lookout.
Exactly. Always make sure the ownership documents. Do not just have one. Print several. Duplicate them. Let your lawyer have it. Another one should be at the real estate office, because if you have one document, it get lost, or there's an inferno, you'll not have the evidence of ownership.
You cannot prove. Yes. In conclusion, 30th January 2015, there was a judgment that was delivered, Civil Appeal number 246 of 2013. It was a case involving Athi Highway Developers Limited versus the West End Butchery Limited. So the judgment entailed a contestation about documents. Were they legal? Was the property acquired legally? Was it sold legally? In the judgment, the three-judge bench, and I will quote, "It was common knowledge that the land market in Kenya was a minefield, and only a foolhardy investor would purchase land in Kenya with the alacrity of a potato dealer in Wakulima market." What does this mean? Real estate market is full of people who are selling air. But why should you go ahead and acquire property without doing your due diligence? Why should you acquire property without confirming it's real? How should you go ahead and pay for such a property? Always invest in a property that you are sure you will not have a legal contest. It will not end you in loss. It is very expensive to buy a property and lose it, because you'll now have to buy a different property, which is an extra expense.
Wow. Properties and buildings will always be here. In fact, they're being built daily. Commercial, high-rise buildings, real estate investments, or malls to let. If you have the money to just play pata potea, then you're in for a rude shock.
True. That has been it, Mr. Victor.
It's been a pleasure being again on this podcast. We hope that our dear listeners have learned a thing or two that they can make sure they are not scammed in any way possible as they endeavor to pursue their real estate investment and be successful in any real estate endeavor that they aspire to achieve.
Definitely. And thank you so much, Mr. Victor. African Real Estate Podcast. It's all about exploring the dynamics in the real estate industry. You can revisit episode 2. Maybe you can learn a thing or two. You can revisit episode 1. You can always visit our website and also visit our socials at African Real Estate blog post. I have been your host, Dominic Mwangi.
I've been the co-host, Victor Kiplagat.
And until next time, see you.
See you guys.